it had come. Not that they were likely to see her, anyway. Eyeing a fragile-looking bench, she left her suitcases where the boat captain had set them and settled in to wait. Though leery, she had to assume that if the bench could withstand a hurricane, as it surely had at some point in its life, it could sustain her 125 pounds. Perching on the edge with a sigh, she mumbled, "Please let this not be a mistake." And she didn't mean the bench or the murder fears. A journalism degree and one successful novel did not qualify Liza to write a memoir. The client, who Vanessa had assured her wanted his story told in narrative form, had insisted that Liza was the only person who could tell it. Turning down the offer would have meant returning to her previous career as a reporter and chasing down stories in the hope that some internet news site might carry them hadn't proved any more lucrative than writing fiction. If Liza's contrary writer's brain refused to cough up a workable idea, then writing someone else's story was better than not writing anything at all. Bright white Keds, bought days before departing for this trip, tapped out a rhythm of impatience as Liza waited. The sun would set soon, and there were no streetlights in sight. She doubted the flashlight on her phone would penetrate far and didn't want to think about the wildlife she might encounter. Birds were abundant in the distance, but what might be lurking in the brush was a mystery she had no desire to solve. Maybe the first email had been the right one after all, but the moment she considered checking the line of carts, the sound of a motor cut through the cacophony of chirps and caws echoing from the trees. A beige and green cart raced toward her, and through the cloud of dust, she could make out only the driver's shape. His very large shape. Like a grizzly bear riding a tricycle, the driver looked ridiculous. Shoulders filled the width of the cart, which she was certain would accommodate 2 normal-size individuals, and he was so tall that his dark mop of hair nearly brushed the covering above his head. One of the few facts Liza knew about her client was his age. The giant racing her way was nowhere near 90-plus years old. "So this is how I die," Liza mumbled, debating whether 2 years on her high school swim team had prepared her for a swim back to the mainland. Great. His cargo had missed the boat. Kendall James drove his cart to the end of the walkway and parked in front of the covered landing, hoping the guy hadn't just missed the boat, but that he wasn't coming at all. A memoir? What the hell was Ray thinking? After 30 years of making himself invisible, why would he want to put his life story on paper for all the world to read? Stubborn old man. He didn't know much about this L.R. Teller guy, but Kendall didn't plan to make him feel overly welcome. The writer was going to have Ray's life in his hands. Literally. And there was a good chance that after the book was released, he'd also have his subject's blood on his hands. The ferry wouldn't return for nearly an hour, and Kendall had no contact information to call and check on Teller. He could hope for the best, return to the struggle of fixing the non-running cart that was giving him fits, and then come back again to see if the writer showed up. A lot of back and forth, but better that than sitting here doing nothing. Kendall didn't like doing nothing. Swinging the cart to the left to turn around, he spotted a beautiful woman perched on a bench under the covering. She was staring off across the water, curls dancing in the wind, and the hem of her dress fluttering along the top of her knees. The image could have been from a magazine ad or a postcard beckoning visitors to a tranquil location. When she shifted, swinging her gaze toward the island, he noticed the divot between her brows. Concern? Confusion? The stranger looked down at her phone, lips tight as if she were trying to solve a mystery. When her eyes cut again to the horizon, Kendall recognized the expression. Fear. Whatever she was afraid of, he couldn't leave her there to fend for herself. After locking the brake and cutting the motor, Kendall spoke to the dog in the back seat. "Stay here, buddy." Exiting the vehicle, he pasted on what he hoped was a neighborly smile. His heavy work boots thudded on the weathered planks, and he noticed the woman's grip tighten around her phone. Though she was smiling, she couldn't hide the suspicion in her intelligent blue eyes.